So far you've seen how I've applied this speed workflow in which I use a combination of luminosity masks and hard selections inside an architectural photograph. And what I'm going to do now is to apply the same speed workflow, but then without the hard selection in a seascape image. Because there's quite a difference between a seascape image and an architectural image, because the thing is that if you would look at an architectural image, then you have all those buildings in for example, an urban environment, and you want to make a specific building stand out from the rest and make it more three-dimensional and to give it more depth. Well, if you would look at a long exposure seascape image, the average long exposure seascape image, then you would always see that it's not necessary to for example, give more presence to a specific subject in there, like a pier, like the one you see in here, or a bridge, for example. Because the thing is, a seascape image is already very minimalistic, and any subject in there is already standing out from the rest. It already has this presence. It's more about the presence of the whole image in a seascape image than just the presence of a specific subject, like a building. In an architectural image. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now in a seascape workflow, but at the same time I want to show you well, quite a new thing in here. That's the combination of luminosity mask without using any hard selections, and that the result that you get from that can come very close to that of a hard selection. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate in here, how you can combine luminosity masks to achieve a very accurate result as if you were using a hard selection. So that's what I'm going to do. For example, this color image of the crystal pier that I shot for the SilverFX Pro 2 campaign back in 2010. Well, this is the original color version, and this is the well, the black and white version that has been featured in many magazines back then in 2011. All right, so I've already created well, a lot of luminosity masks in here. I didn't create one hard selection. So for example, you see all the light luminosity mask selections in here, the dark ones, and of course also the mid-grade luminosity mask selections. So now I'm going to demonstrate how you can combine those luminosity mask selections, come up with something that's quite accurate. So for example, if I go to my neutral converted version of this color image, and for example, let's say that I just wanted to, well, create this high-key look in the water without affecting the specific pier in here. So I've been playing with the background image already, so play with the curves tool and drag the curve upwards, especially the white point and the gray point in there. And I want to merge this look into my current active layer by using luminosity mask and the combination of luminosity masks only. So I've added also a mask in here. So now what I need to do is to go to my color file in which I saved all the luminosity mask selections. And I'm going to look for a combination luminosity mask that would give me the desired result in which I only affect the water without affecting the pier. So if I would have a look at, for example, the light luminosity mask, then I would like L1 or L2. Well, if you look at L1, then I think, well, some of the tonal values that I have in my background layer that I want to show in my final result are going to be revealed, but not completely, because it's quite mid-gray over here. So I don't like to use this one, and L2 is even worse, so I'm not going to use that one. So I'm going to have a look at the dark luminosity mask. As you can see here, that the water is also mid-gray, so it's going to be revealed for a bit. But at the same time, the pier itself is completely white, meaning that it's going to be impacted by any change that I apply in my active layer. So this is not the ideal situation or the ideal luminosity mask. But while browsing through the dark luminosity mask, I already see that, for example, if you would look at D3 or even D4, in which you see the pier completely white, meaning that it's going to be isolated quite considerably from its background. So this is something that I have to keep in mind. This is something that I probably could use later on if I want to isolate this pier. But first I'm going to look for the water, keeping in mind this D4 dark luminosity mask. So I have to go to the mid-gray tones, luminosity mask. And I think that I could use M3 for this, because what you see here is that this part is going to be affected quite a lot. And so I could use this, and you see that the pier itself is quite dark, so you're not going to affect that a lot, but I can even emphasize that by subtracting D4, which contains a selection of the pier, almost of the pier only. If I would use that one, subtract that from this one, then I would come up with something that would only affect this specific part. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going back to my neutral version. I'm going to load from the color image mid-gray tone luminosity mask M3, like this. So if I would apply the gradient tool in here, then, well, it would already have a very nice result. So I can show you that right now, and then compare with the other version. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to drop the line over there. You see, it's already having a very nice effect on it. The water's looking high key. So I could do with this, for example. But of course, I'm striving for more perfectionism. So I'm going to undo this. So I've still loaded the M3 mid-gray luminosity mask selection. And now I'm going to subtract the dark D4 luminosity mask from this selection. So I'm going to color selections, D4, subtract it from this selection, like this. And now I'm going to apply the gradient tool again. And if you would look at the mask in mask mode, you would see that the pier hasn't been affected at all, because you see all the white lines in here from the posts of the pier. So this hasn't been affected, and even the shadow areas just underneath the pier aren't affected either, because it's still white there. So it still has this it still has this very dark look of the pier, and also the shadows underneath the pier are still visible. So this is something that I would like. So this is how you can combine luminosity masks without using any hard selections to come up with something that is very accurate and come up with the desired result that you had in mind. So to come up with the conclusion, if you're just starting out with the creation of black and white fine art, long exposure, minimalistic images, then I can definitely recommend you that you start by creating seascape images or landscape images, because in that case you don't need to create all those hard selections that are really time consuming, but you could just suffice with creating quick luminosity masks and come up with the result that's already looking, well, quite great. If you consider doing some architectural work as well, then obviously it's more needed to create those hard selections, but still I would recommend to use a combination of hard selections with luminosity mask selections, because I think that is really the key to creating high level, high quality black and white fine art images. Being smart in the way you create the hard selections, be selective in that, and use that in a smart way, in a combined way with luminosity mask selections.